Let's talk about the time I thought my bully was gonna die. YouTube, what's the deal? What's the deal? Welcome back to my channel. Man, we done all been in them type of situations. For those who have dogs or cats or animals and stuff like that, when you gotta make that trip to that hospital. And I had one of those trips, man, when I thought my dog was, yeah, I didn't know what was going on, man. I thought she was gonna die, to be honest, man. And as being a breeder, any little thing that be happening to your dog, you be thinking that not only you got to think about is your dog gonna pass, you got to be like, oh man, is this gonna mess up my breeding? Is this gonna mess up being able to breed my dog? So basically, man, my first bully, Miss Jackson, right? So I had Miss Jackson for about 7 months. So when it comes to dogs, and it depends on the breed, they usually come in heat around a certain amount of time when they're a puppy. So I have a pocket bully. So she came into heat around like she was like 7, 8 months when she came into heat. I want to say 8 months, you know. So I'm not thinking about breeding her right now or nothing like that. I'm just taking care of her. She a puppy. So boom, her first heat come, right? Everything was pretty much regular. You know, this was actually my first time going through a heat cycle with a female dog. So she was bleeding and stuff regular. So I was buying a little Pampers or trying to figure out what little doggy Pampers that'll work for her. So I'm using little Pampers and she wearing those all throughout the day. So she won't make no big mess or nothing like that. And yeah, so her heat cycle, it started off like with little drops of blood and stuff like that. And then as the time goes, as the days go by, you know, it gets a little bit heavier and heavier. So I'm still taking her on regular little walks and stuff like that. I know that when dogs are in heat, you know, they can attract other dogs and stuff like that too. I'm just kind of just doing everything that I would be doing with her on the regular. The only thing is now, when we inside the house, she has a pamper on, so it'll be just blood in the pamper, and I'll clean her up. I'll change that throughout the day and stuff like that. And right now, at this time, I was using disposable Pampers, which I rather recommend that you use the cloth Pampers rather than disposable Pampers. Yeah. So one day, I say about, man, it had to been like 10 days to 2 weeks. She had been in her heat cycle. And she was bleeding. So I started noticing when she was going outside, she was kind of straining when she was peeing. So maybe, you know, I thought it was just something with the heat cycle, and it turned from starting to strain when she was peeing to every time I took her outside, she was trying to pee and she was straining and it was barely anything coming out. So then, man, it had to been like within a day or two, I started noticing when she was peeing, it was blood coming out. I'm like, man, I'm like, what's going? You know, it's all new to me. So I'm like, maybe it's normal when she in her heat cycle. You know, it's the same flow. So that when she's peeing, it's the you know the blood's gonna come out too, man. And then I started noticing, man, it was big puddles. I'm like, my baby's sick. She heard what we about to do. She was acting normal though. She was eating and stuff like that. Only thing was she was just when was trying to use the bathroom, she was strained. Then she had her little dog area and stuff where I used to have mats down. And then I started noticing she started just using the bathroom and then it'd be blood spots. Like I'm talking about like as in if it was supposed to be pee, it was blood, you know, the same amount of liquid and all the stuff. I'm like, all right, man, I gotta take her to the vet. So I go and take her to my little local vet. So they kind of like feeling her and stuff like that. And they're like, man, she kind of feels solid right here. So let us do an x-ray. So boom, they do the x-ray. The vet come back and tell me that yeah, it looks like her bladder is full. I'm like, okay, like she's like, yeah, it's almost like she's not able to express her bladder. So basically they was like, well, we're gonna give you these pills and this and that, and she should be able to. No, matter of fact, what they said was, we gonna keep her and we gonna hold her and we gonna see if we can get her to pee on her own. If not, if she can't pee on her own after we give her these pills, then we're gonna give her a catheter, which basically it's like a, if for people that don't know, it's basically like a little tube that they gonna stick into her little, you know, her little urine area, her urine area, her pee area, to where it would help get her to basically to release the fluids that's in her bladder. So basically, boom, they ended up. They said she couldn't pee on her own. Still, they couldn't get her to pee a good amount on her own. So boom, they did that. because at this time I guess she wasn't peeing at all. So boom, they end up doing that. That probably much was holding her probably to like the end of the day, like around 4 or 5 or whatever. They was like, all right, man, come and get her, and let's just see how she's doing after that. And this was like a Friday. They was like, man, if she's still doing the same thing, then you got to take her to the probably take her to emergency vet or whatever the case is. Take her to another vet. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, man, I'm hoping she do better. So I bring her home, and she kind of like when I'm taking her out, she kind of like straining and stuff, but her bladder's now full, so she's it's not gonna be no pee in there anyway, but she's still straining. And I can't remember if they told me what the actual fluid looked like when they did drain her and stuff like that, if it had blood in it, which I'm probably sure it did, but I don't remember them telling me anything. So boom, the next morning come same thing. Peas on the mat and it's bloody. I'm like, man, let me take her to the vet. I'm kind of low key sad now because I'm like, man, what she got going on? I'm like, man, do she got pyometra or something? Do she like what is going on? So I take her to another vet. It's actually like a little emergency hospital vet. That's probably was like 30 minutes away. So I take her, and at this time, she actually doing fine, man. She not really, besides the straining and stuff like that, she actually doing fine. She was eating the stuff. I didn't really see no difference. And actually, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this. She did start to be more like she was like her energy level wasn't there, but she would eat a little bit of stuff like that. But I think I did started to notice that she started acting different. But at this time, I already knew something was wrong. So I wasn't really paying attention to the symptoms of how she's acting and stuff like that. So basically, boom, we go and I take her to the vet, and yeah, so they go in and they checking on her and stuff, and they're like, man, we don't know what's going on with her, and we're gonna have to run this and that, and it's gonna cost this much amount. It was like they came out, it was like 2 bands. I'm like, man, for like what's going like, and y'all can't even tell me what's going on. It's like, nah, we gotta run tests, we gotta do the catheter again, all type of stuff. So basically, I'm like, oh man. But the good thing about it for me is I had pet insurance, but you gotta pay the bread first, and then you get reimbursed whatever your deductible. They taking that. I get back 90% of the total amount, minus the deductible. So I'm like, all right, cool, but it was for me. It wasn't about the money. I'm like, man, what's going on with my dog? So basically, that's like you just gonna leave her here. We're gonna see what's going on. And man, throughout the whole day, I ain't gonna lie, I was sick, man. They got to talking about, oh, we might have to spay her and stuff like that. I'm like, man, I'm trying to breed my dog, and y'all talking about spaying her. And of course, I want the best of her well-being first. So if she needs to be spayed, I'ma spay her. It was just a stressful situation, but at the same time, this was like my little child, so I was sick. I ain't gonna lie, I was sick, man. So basically, yeah. So I say about like around 1 or 2 o'clock, they was like, man, we don't know what's going on, but what it looks like is that the her is blood going into her bladder. So basically, like the blood was going into her bladder, so that's why her bladder was being filled. So they was saying was like, oh, her insides don't seem like they in line up right and stuff like that. And I'm just like, sometimes these vets they be saying certain stuff to kind of like scare you about your dog because they don't know what's going on. You feel me? So they talking this gibberish. Like, man, what is y'all talking about? And it's a bully, so they gonna say, oh, yeah, it's this and that. Man, the dog wasn't bred right, bred right. So I'm like, man, so what are we gonna do? It's like, man, we're gonna do a urine culture on her. We're gonna do a blood test on her, and we're gonna see basically what comes back. And that was pretty much it. They said they drank once they did they drained her again. That's like that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna give her some meds and stuff like that. And I think they had to put her to sleep for a minute when they put the catheter in her. I don't know if I think they just sedated her for a little bit. I don't think they fully gave her full anesthesia to put her to sleep. I can't remember what the actual process that they did. Yeah, so they go and run these tests, and I say about maybe like a few more hours they come and get at me. I mean, they call me and stuff like that, and they was like, man, we ran tests, and she don't have no infection. Her bladder looks good as far as like if there's any like kidney stones, any like I forgot what it is. It's like any type of little crystals or anything that's in her bladder and stuff like that to cause any type of infection or any other the stones. Her blood work looks good. They couldn't tell me anything what was going on with her besides that they knew that her kidney, I mean her bladder was filled with blood. So I'm like, man, what? So what do we do from here? And they're like, man, we're gonna give you these meds. Basically, they gave her meds to help her pee. They gave her some meds to help her, with as far as like infection and stuff like that. It was like a few things that they get did. It was a few medications that they did give her to take home with, and it was like just come and get her, and we're just gonna have to see. And I'm trying to think as far as like it was. I think the culture. I think when it came to the urine culture, I think they couldn't do the urine culture right then and there. I think the blood work was good, and then the urine culture was a few days later. So basically, when I went to go get her, she was happy to see me. They brought her out, and she came running to me. So that was a good sign. I was happy to see her and stuff like that. And then yeah, so I guess it was gonna take a few days for the culture, but the blood work they were saying everything so far was pretty good with her. And then yeah, a few days later the vet called, and man, she was doing good now. Like it was like nothing had happened. Her heat cycle was over with, and yeah, she wasn't going through what she wasn't going through any of that no more. And the vet, when they talked read the results on the culture, it was like, yeah, there's nothing going on. We can't figure out nothing. So it was almost like a mystery disease or a mystery type of a situation at that time, man. But I ain't gonna lie, it had me stressed out. I was like, man, what's going on with my dog for real? And to this day, man, I haven't had no type of complications as far as what comes to her heat cycle. So it was like a one-time little situation. And it did have me scared, like, man, maybe when her next heat cycle comes, she might go through the same situation. And nah, it didn't. Man, she was actually cool, and I was actually surprised, and I was happy that I didn't have to go through that again. But man, I know it's been times where people will be going through these having these dogs, and you be having these situations, and it be scarce, and you be like, man, what's about to happen to my dog? And then money be coming in, money comes and gets involved. But yeah, man, if anything, I advise anybody and everybody to go ahead and get that pet insurance too, because it makes a big difference in saving your animal when it comes to these big expenses. That's my story time for today. Like, comment, and subscribe. And y'all have a good one.